We're recording now. Hello. Hello. Happy holidays. I'm David McGuire, the director and founder of Shark Stewards, and we're having our end of year 2023 team event with students and activists and young people and shark passionate people, like hopefully you who will be watching this later. So we're just going to kind of celebrate a really successful year in education, getting out into the field again, conservation, doing more policy, and also getting in the water with sharks. So welcome to the recording audience. So I'm just going to share sharkstewards.org, just basically who we are and what we do and why we do it and how you can help us do it, because we really are a very much grassroots organization that relies on the passion and the energy and the love of the many. And that includes science, like community science, advocacy, like showing up at hearings, but also in school events. So there's a whole get involved tab there that I won't bore you with, other than one thing that is in the chat now is the Art for Sharks program, which is kind of a fun program started by Pamela Comstock, one of our board members, who's an artist. And we have had a number of artists donate their works, from paintings to sculptures to drawings. And these are all up on the Better World auction site. And it's a tax-deductible donation. And some beautiful paintings by Dana Lamb, who's an illustrator and former professor at Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton. This really large airbrush whale shark, and other various pieces of art. So that's just kind of a community program that was started by our board, and to help us not only raise awareness, but also to help raise some funds towards the end of the year. For as far as campaigns, we are an activist group, but we apply data towards policy. One of the most active programs we've been involved with for 12 years, of course, were shark fin trade bans, actually 17 years, but that passed last year. The Federal Shark Fin Sales Elimination Act was signed by President Biden in December 2022, banning the sale and trade of shark fins in the USA. We also supported the bill in Canada. The UK now has their law just passed, and the EU is working to ban the import-export of shark fins. It's going to be a lot harder with a country like Spain, whose has a major shark fishery as well as shark fin exporters. But there is a lot of action and activity going on, primarily in Germany, but also in the UK and France. So you can read more about these campaigns and how you can help. They all typically have a take action link, why we're doing it, who you can write a letter to, or petitions to legislators or decision makers. And that our most active campaigns are at the bottom of our website. And so some of the things that have been most recent is that we were just in a hearing with the Board of Land and Natural Resources in Hawaii to reject a faulty EIR, environmental impact review, or environmental impact statement, and eliminate this reef fish trade, collecting tangs and other lovely fish, but most of them die, for aquarium trade out of Hawaii. So the board did accept the petition. They passed it on to the Department of Aquatic Resources, and now we have to just watch this with several Hawaiian groups and nonprofits in Hawaii to ensure that these grazers, these herbivores that are keeping the coral healthy, don't get wiped out like they were previous to a legal lawsuit filed by Earth Justice and the Native Hawaiian communities. So that just happened 2 weeks ago. The public comment period for the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary closed in October. We're following that, as well as working with the Northern Chumash Tribal Network to pass this National Marine Sanctuary, connecting the Monterey National Marine Sanctuary down to almost to the Channel Islands and Santa Barbara. And we just got done with another hearing in California to reduce bycatch on of sharks. It's a swordfish. I'm sorry, it's not the swordfish trade. The swordfish fishery gill net was also signed into law to ban gill nets, drift gill nets off of California. That was a 6-year campaign proposed by Senator Feinstein, or before she retired, and is signed into law and passed with the Federal Inflation Act, and that bans these really hazardous forms of fishing off of California that killed more sharks than anything else. So the last fishery is a set net. So it's like a gill net, but it doesn't drift. And it's another cruel and moribund fishery. It's highly inefficient, tons of bycatch. It's for white sea bass and halibut, but it kills seals, sea turtles, other air breathers, but it also kills many of the sharks, like 7-gill sharks, that need to keep moving, as well as juvenile white sharks that are protected in California. So that has been passed on also out of the committee to the commission, that is, for review to come up with recommendations and gear changes to reduce the impacts on sharks and other species. So several things happen in the last couple of months that are really, really positive. In the meantime, there are other ongoing projects that we have. One is this project that's HR 4051 that has been proposed by several East Coast, mostly fishing states like Georgia, like Florida, like Virginia, West Virginia, that are also have shark tournaments or shark sports fishing. They're complaining that their sharks are getting their catch, their red snappers or whatever. And essentially what they want to do is open up the Mako season, which is closed because Mako sharks are endangered and protected now on the eastern seaboard. But also it calls for more research, which we are supporting, but we were going to make sure some of the language that they'd like to put in, which would be to open up fishing season in all U.S. waters for recreational and trophy hunters. So this is an ongoing thing that's just gone through the Committee for Oceans and Water and Wildlife. We'll be definitely following that and working with our Congressman, Jared Huffman. Some of the other work we're doing is working with eBay. This is something that anybody can do. We have an ongoing petition. We need data looking at actually sales of jaws and swordfish rostra that are not permitted under CITES by these people selling these CITES listed, or Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species, wildlife. All the sawfishes and saw sharks are protected under CITES Appendix 1, meaning it's almost impossible to sell anything without extreme permitting or kill them even. CITES Appendix 2, which almost 100 sharks species, shark and ray species, were listed last year in Panama when we were there, are on CITES now, and we're seeing dusky sharks, blue sharks, which are now protected, other species of the Carcharodontidae are being sold without permits. And so we don't know how these fish are harvested, where they're coming from, if they're coming from out of the country and being sold online, and eBay is not really responding. So with a UC Berkeley student, we wrote a report, sent it to the head of Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and also sent that report to the head of eBay. There's a new head of eBay. We're going to try this one more time nicely, but we may end up going to Customs or Fish and Wildlife and filing a lawsuit for violation of selling endangered wildlife or protected wildlife without proper documentation. And one of the other projects that's active, that's not under our campaigns, it's more under science and education, is our Shark Watch project. Katja has worked on this. We've had several Berkeley students. We started out during COVID collecting data on primarily sports hunters for great white sharks. So looking at data gleaned through social media. And that's what ended up in that sort of unfortunate law that has poor language in it, that regulation by Fish and Wildlife. But we're trying to reduce chumming and using heavy gear near shore and on public piers and beaches, which would improve public safety or increase public safety, as well as protect some large sharks that are being attracted to nearshore waters. You're seeing these kind of things happen in, of all places, in Florida. So there is the capacity. It happened also off the Swan River outside of Perth in Australia as a public safety measure, because sports fishermen are drawing these dangerous sharks and they're not leaving, they're staying because they're consistently attracted. So we'd much rather not alter the behavior of the sharks, not see the sharks at the end of the line, or even if they're let go through catch and release, it's also dangerous because it tires them out or sometimes injures them. We do have a downloadable sheet that has information. We've got signs with this. There's a QR code with a link tree in there where people can actually add observations of sharks in the wild or being caught. But the other side of this is actually we're looking at shark and ray strandings and death. And that's something that Katja has worked on, and we're trying to focus on the Berkeley Aquatic Park area, which is a brackish water basin connected to the city, connected to the city terrestrially, but also connected to the bay under the freeway. And we've seen several shark die-offs. And so we've collected specimens, we're quantifying the numbers of sharks and rays that are stranded, and then doing the pathology with Fish and Wildlife to determine the cause, while we're trying to work with the city to mitigate what we think is surface flow or flow through the drainage areas. So the next part of this project is we want to do water sampling. So we're applying for a chancellor's grant at UC Berkeley, and we're hoping to get some students to come down and do some continuous monitoring and collect the data and then aggregate that data and report the data and actually write a paper as well on these mortality events that have increased, very likely associated with sea surface temperature increases and global warming. So Katja, are you still with us? You want to talk about the paper and some of the findings that you were looking at last year?
Yeah, sure. So basically my paper was about leopard shark die-offs in the bay. And what I found is that most die-offs are after like heavy winter rains. So we see a lot of die-offs in the springtime. That's because rain can cause a lot of pollution in the water. There can be salinity changes, and it's a crucial time for leopard sharks, especially since it's around their mating season too.
Right. So there's definitely there's several variables, and we've been able to define some of the factors, but not exactly exclude all or eliminate. So being scientists, we want to collect more data and ask a question: what is happening here? And so collect data in other fashions, meaning like with instrumentation. This is the link tree. So you can, if you want to go onto our website, you can test your shark knowledge. You can do the Seven Gills Shark Survey, which is a project that Carmen is working on. We're trying to do photo pattern ID, but also a social economic survey, primarily in San Diego, to see what the value of sharks are alive. And then also people can actually record the sighting of a shark and georeference it. So this has been basically all a volunteer program. It's educational, as well. And so part of that is we have these shark science sheets that I just did one for this hearing on soup fin sharks, because we're very worried about mortality of soup fin or tope or school sharks, which are becoming endangered globally, and we're seeing them get fished for sport, but also commercially, and also killed as bycatch in California. So this is a great way, a community science program, to collect data, but also to share information, including some of these downloadable science sheets, including the CITES sheets. But we'd like to have this, if we could, as comprehensive as we can with at least California sharks. And we have about 15 or 20 species on here. There's the leopard shark. And so these are downloadable PDFs, and you can learn about local sharks and rays. So that's kind of our Shark Watch program, which we're always looking for contributions. And something like the science sheets, we always need help with because there's a lot of species that aren't on there. And we have other science programs that people are interested in, including our California Marine Protected Area Network, doing surveys, but also primarily now doing education and trying to facilitate compliance. And we're working with California Fish and Wildlife and the University of California and PISCO, the Partnership for Interdisciplinary and Science and Conservation of the Oceans, that's doing the actual species surveys in this network of 124 marine protected areas that just underwent the decadal review or 10-year review under Fish and Wildlife. And the preliminary evidence is showing that these MPAs are successful. In many cases, 400% more fish biomass inside the marine protected area as in relation or in comparison, that is, to the control areas or the areas that are outside and being fished. So the one last thing that I want to share, and we'll kind of do more visuals here, is a big part of what Shark Stewards work is media production. I've done several films that we've used to advocate for shark conservation, including our first, which is about 15 or 16 years old now, called Shark Stewards of the Reef. And essentially is how I created Shark Stewards and introduced the first shark fin bans, and also to support the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument in Hawaii in the Northwest Islands, the first monument in U.S. waters. And now there is another national marine sanctuary proposed in the Papahanaumokuakea, which would increase science, plastic pollution mitigation, and better protection of endangered species that use those islands, including tiger sharks that go up there to feed on the fledgling albatross, the sea turtles, the big trevallies, and unfortunately the monk seals. But they get fat, and then the pregnant females come down to the main islands, and that's where they're pupping. So media production, doing short media, including on our YouTube channel, but also actual films. Like right now, we're working on a series of short films that will be a longer film with our partners, Pelagio Kakuha in Baja California, on this protected swimway to really focus on hammerhead protection in the Sea of Cortez or the Gulf of California, but also involving stakeholders, which is what Carmen will be doing, and looking at how we can offset shark fishing or increase livelihoods and the quality through sustainable ecotourism. And that's a pretty exciting project that's funded by the Ignite Foundation, who's also funding our film Kahumano, which is a film on Hawaiian sharks, but it's really an adventure story about two young women who are freediving and seeing the ocean and experiencing it and connecting with Hawaiian traditional kumus or teachers and managers and learning from Hawaii how we can better protect sharks globally, because Hawaii has passed a law. It's illegal to fish for sharks commercially. We were involved with that 4 years ago. It's now illegal to fish for sharks recreationally in Hawaiian waters. And Hawaii was also the first state to pass a shark fin trade ban. And a lot of it is because sharks are reverent. Sharks are very important to Hawaiian culture. It's very important to them. And so the Hawaiians have really been the leaders in shark protection. And so we're going to try to help tell that story. And ideally, in that process, we'll be able to introduce new gear restrictions globally to protect oceanic white tips that are critically endangered sharks. A beautiful shark, and there happens to be an aggregation right off Kona. So the film is really going to show Hawaii sharks, but it's also going to talk about this little subpopulation and one of the few places where they are protected because they are largely oceanic and migratory sharks. So that's a big part of our media work. If you want to see a lot of the work that we have done, you could go to our YouTube channel, Shark Stewards, and we've got 414 subscribers, not very many, because we had 245 videos. So we can actually use a lot of help in marketing. We do various events, the Run for Sharks. This is that uh, um, Borneo from Below series, and that was shot a lot at Cipadan. This is our first video. We saw whale sharks in the Sea of Cortez on our trip with plastic, and I wanted to share actually just a teaser that we developed in Hawaii, and kind of just shows what Shark Stewards does. So I'm just gonna play this, and I might narrate over it a little bit. And she looks pregnant. Nathan is tiger shark in Manukau.
Nice.
So a big part of our focus has been on endangered sharks and rays. So, not all sharks, but a lot of the work at the foundation is to try to apply fisheries data, trade data like shark fin trade, but also shark fishing as well, and apply that to better fisheries management or fisheries trade, such as introducing shark fin trade bans or CITES petitioning to protect these species. The other real major component is protecting where sharks live through a network of marine protected areas or national marine sanctuaries. One of the areas that will be in our film actually is the first traditional based managed marine protected areas in Hawaii. And it's done by this village and villagers who led this. And they're seeing the reef fish, there's a resident tiger shark, and they're going to manage this area because it was overfished or aquarium fish were getting harvested out of there. So empowering local people or trying to provide as much support and knowledge that we can, but also learning from them to help them protect the ocean and other species, I really believe is the long-term solution for success in protecting marine megafauna like sharks. And the other thing is education and direct action, engaging the kids, removing plastic from the ocean, trying to educate the next generation who are really the future for the ocean and the future for humanity. So it's been a lot of fun working in Hawaii, but also in Indonesia, Malaysia, wherever we go, we try to dive in and get engaged with the community as well as with youth and try to become part of the solution. So that was our little teaser reel that played for Shark Week. So somebody asked me if we had something they could show. So we put together this little video. It's mostly the only footage I had with me was basically Hawaii footage. So most of that footage is shot in Hawaii, except for the shark finning footage I shot in Indonesia. So next, we want to show a little trailer called Turning Tides, and this is a film that we worked with Vivian Guido, who is a Shark Steward and an intern and still an advisee. And Vivian, you want to just talk about the project a little bit and where people can see the film next?
Yeah, absolutely. So Turning Tides is a film that I made as a part of my master's research with the help of David and my supervisor who works in partner with the UN. And the goal of the film was to use documentary film to share science information as an educational tool and also to enhance ocean literacy. The film is geared to the global community of youth, which is now defined by the UN as people aged 16 to 30. But it's really a film that I would say most people can watch and learn something new from. We were really lucky that, again, they showed it at the COP conference. So with the UNFCCC and the UNDP, we got a total of 3 screenings, which was fantastic. And Yeah, I mean, we filmed it in Hawaii, David and I, for most of the footage, and David so kindly agreed to be really the main character of the film, talking about some of the critical issues that we're seeing in marine conservation, and linked to Sustainable Development Goal number 14, kind of what we've done well and where we need to improve. Um, the film will be shown at the Prague Film Festival, the SF Ocean Film Festival, and then we're also going to enter into some film festivals in Canada and in Hawaii as well. So that's kind of the short-term trajectory. And then in terms of outcome after the COP conference, there was some conversation, I would say, particularly on MPAs and protecting migratory pathways and swimways. That was something that was quite popular among attendees, as well as fisheries policy for endangered species. So those were kind of the main two topics among others. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, and we hope to use the film advocacy piece. We'll certainly show it in San Francisco or Berkeley at some of our events, or down in Southern California, and as you said, Hawaii, and some of the film festivals. But I'm really hoping also, Vivian, to do something for World Oceans Day in New York at the United Nations, which has a big World Oceans Day conference every year.
Yes,
We're out of cycle a little bit on the Impact 5 was held in Canada last year, which is the big marine protected area summit. But this would definitely, I'd like to see if we could show Kahumanu and also Turning Tides. So we'll play the trailer now for y'all. It's premiere live on YouTube. The United Nations has taken on a formidable task, but also made some significant commitments towards protecting the ocean with the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a long way to go to achieve those, but many of those goals are almost being met. In many cases, protection doesn't start from the government. It starts from the people. And if you think about Earth Day back in the 1970s, in response to oil spills and pollution in the ocean, the people got mad and they rose up and they said, we don't want this anymore. Going forward 50 years, we need to have that same kind of anger or passion or voice to protect the ocean. That's great. That's the first time I've seen the trailer. Thank you, Vivian.
No problem. I'll put it into the chat. I think the music wasn't really coming through the whole time. So if anyone wanted to watch it, I'll put the YouTube link in the chat for you.
Okay, I just closed my entire window. Let me open that back up.
That was a great video. Congratulations. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And, you know, it was meaningful to me because Shark Stewards has been involved with those sustainable development goals that were established in Aichi in Thailand in, God, I think it was like 2010. And one of those goals was to protect 10% of our oceans by 2020, which we failed as a world. It's really around 3.7% of truly protected oceans, or around 7%, 7.5%. of the world's oceans under marine protected areas. That commitment has now been renewed to a more lofty goal that was recommended by scientists, that if we're going to recover species, if we're going to protect whales, if we're going to protect seafood or fish, I should say, that are important, particularly for sustenance for emerging nations or nations that don't have big agriculture or the ability to produce their own food. We're going to have massive starvation and more conflict. And so we need to have a healthy ocean to have healthy people and to reverse some of the impacts that humans have had in the last really 50 years. And so SDG 14 was part of that, was life below water, was to increase this commitment towards marine protection. And with the new goal is actually being achieved in many countries. U.S. ranks in the top 20. Argentina has met it. Some of the Nordic nations, countries that have a lot of coastal areas, but the U.S. has protected about 26% of our waters under state protected areas, parks, or primarily most of it is in our national marine sanctuaries. And most of that, something like almost 90%, are in two areas in the Central Pacific, where around Hawaii and the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, and also the South Pacific and the Pacific remote islands. And there is movement, as well as Samoa, American Samoa, to increase and also increase more of the research as well through the sanctuary designation. So that goal is 30 by 30, and President Biden has committed to it, and they've actually committed a great deal, his administration, to protecting a good portion of our lands, and including reversing some of the ignoring the law, or trying to usurp the law and ignore legal jurisdiction, which the former president, did not have, and went in and opened up ANWR, the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge, to oil drilling, the Bear's Teeth, the Staircase Escalante, which are sacred to Native Americans. When President Biden came into office, he actually came back and closed the two terrestrial monuments and maintained their monument status. So they were being mined, they were being damaged by vehicles, and so those are now sacred lands, but also public lands where we can visit, but they will not be extracted for chemicals or minerals. Same thing with ANWR. President Biden has closed the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge and maintained its refuge status, which was established, I believe, is under President Clinton, maintained by President Biden, tried to be opened up under President Trump, and now reprotected by President Biden. So it's 30% of our oceans, and it's also, we're trying to push that to 30% of our terrestrial landmass. So people can help get us over the finish line or the goal line by supporting these two sanctuaries under NOAA, the Papahanaumokuakea and the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary, which will protect not only the natural wildlife and habitat, but it will protect valuable cultural areas that are sacred to Native Americans, both in Hawaii, but also in the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary. So I think next we're going to go on to our activity. So this is going to test your guys' shark knowledge. I appreciate you sticking with us. We've been at it for a little over an hour. This is about a 10-minute activity. And whoever wins will win either a ticket to go see orcas with Ocean Safaris, or to see topside viewing with great white sharks off Año Nuevo with James Mosquito, who is an amazing photographer and diver. And actually, while we were doing this, I thought I'd show his little reel. He's been really just seeing some extraordinary wildlife in the Monterey Bay. I closed all my tabs out, so I know he sent me the proper. So James is really knowledgeable. We had him out on our out as video gallery on our boat to the Farallon Islands, because we lead trips out during Sharktober every year to go see white sharks and collect data, and as well as on humpback whales and whale identification, birds, rare birds. So James actually has a great deal of history because he used to do cage diving off of the sanctuary before that got discontinued, or it really got restricted by the National Marine Sanctuary. So we have a permit under NOAA, the White Shark Stewardship Program, but you cannot chum in the sanctuary. You can't attract sharks other than using a decoy if you have a permit. But it really basically shut the industry down because sharks really don't want to come unless they can get attracted by food. So this is a reel by Ocean Safaris, and I want to thank these guys for doing this donation to Shark Stewards, and as well as working in ecotourism and education. So James has some pretty extraordinary footage, and he's also very generous with it, and did a trailer actually for an insurance company on Shark Stewards that somebody I knew in New York told me they saw me on a building for New Year's celebration a few years ago, and an insurance company funded this thing, and that's on James' YouTube channel as well. A lot of the footage that kind of makes me think Carmen is in Baja, in Guadalupe, which was closed last year for white shark tourism. And part of the problem in tourism is sometimes we love it too much or love it in the wrong way. And there was a great deal of concern that some of the sharks were getting injured or even killed. Sharks were getting in cages. Shark behavior was changing. And so CONNAP, the government, with some or not, the two environment and tourism departments or parks departments shut down tourism, which is something like a $30 million industry for the area. So one of the recommendations that we will do where we go is to try to recommend tourism, but tourism with proper practices that is beneficial to the animals as well as the environment and local operators. So there's the white shark tourism at Guadalupe is kind of in a reset mode. Hopefully, there will be scientists or rangers there. I know that Mauricio Hoyos, which is one of the chief scientists, is not working there. And one of the other benefits that tourists have is they deter extraction or poaching. And so it's a concern among the dive community, but I think some of the concerns by the conservation community, or at least the Mexican government, is valid. So they're reevaluating. And so you won't be able to get this kind of white shark footage really almost anywhere in the world other than at Guadalupe. But the other thing is orcas. We were just talking about this really amazing orca footage that's been happening. That's been these, I think James said it's 3 pods down off the Cape in the Gulf of California, and we're seeing tourist operators take people out. And Eric Higuera, who's a friend and amazing photographer, just had some footage of these orcas chowing down on these mobula rays, the mobula munci, that are endemic to the Gulf. Boo. They also eat whales and other things, but I think there's a little bit of controversy around that tourism industry. It'd be interesting to learn more about it. So our Nearpod experience that Julie set up is a kind of it's a shark quiz. You can test your knowledge. Oops, that's not it. It also has a thing called race to the top or something at the end. So there's actually a clear winner. Whoever gets the most questions answered the fastest will win the trip. And hopefully you'll tell your friends. But also in between, I'll ask some questions, and we have some t-shirts and some other shark swag that we'll give to you guys, and the grand prize at the end. So I'm going to the chat to see so you have to sign in, it's free. And I'll be participating. Julie will operate it. So you need to sign into that link that's in the chat there. Here, I'll put it down at the bottom again. Oh, Julie already did it. And I'm sorry about the audio, you guys. I thought we tested it and it was working. So is everybody in? Well, while you're waiting, we'll start, and we'll just start. Let's see. Haley, are you still with us?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I'm just going to give you a present since you tuned in from Michigan and it's 3 hours later there. And I don't know if you can see this, but I found some of our old shirts. This is Borneo Shark Week that we did with our partners called track.org on Pom Pom Island, which is a dive area and protected resort where we actually reintroduced sharks. We made these really nice shirts, actually. So we did a Shark Week in Borneo. So I'll send that to you for tuning in from Michigan, and you can be our ambassador when you go to Malaysia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So send me your address, if you will. You can either put it in the chat or send it to info@sharkstewards.org. So if you guys are all in, whoops, the answer is already there. I guess there's a timer on this, Julie. So the question was, what is the fear of sharks? It's called galeophobia or also salaxiophobia, and those are the two Latin roots, which are now some of the suborders of sharks, the galeoforms and the salaxioforms. So we would rather have it to be galeophilia or love of sharks. So Julie, does you advance this or do I advance this?
I advance it. You just have to say next question.
Okay,
and I'll
next,
advance
please.
it.
Thank you. I know you gave me instructions, which I disregarded. Another open-ended question. Who is accredited with the earliest scientific description of a shark, and what kind of shark was described? And I'm not going to put I know the answers, but I'm not going to put, so don't copy me, because Galileo was looking through a telescope, not a microscope, or he was not an anatomist. So we'll give you like 15 more seconds while you're doing that. Also put in for a prize. Why did the shark get sent to jail? Come on, Charles, you know this one? No? Clearly not on
I
my
do
card.
remember. I forgot the answer though.
So he was involved with some fishy business. All right. Let's close out of this one. And the answer is Aristotle was the answer, and around 300 BC. And it was a squaliform shark, which is dogfish, spiny dogfish, and they used to call them squalus, before there was full taxonomy of sharks. They were known as squalids. So Aristotle is known. Pliny the Elder also mentioned sharks, and then as we got into the naturalists, more into the 1500s, Cuvier, Linnaeus, who were really prolific anatomists and describers of not only sharks, but other organisms. And of course, there's been a major revolution in the past 20 years through genetic and molecular cell biology, and sequencing DNA is actually lumped what we considered species together and split what we consider the same species into different species. So we're able to, instead of just compare lengths and numbers of teeth, now looking at genetics to resolve the family tree, if you will. So can we move on to the next one, please? So what do you call a layer of cells comprised of mirrored crystals behind a shark's retina? And this is in other vertebrates as well, in what's called convergent evolution. And it magnifies light, so it enables them to see in low light. And not all sharks have this, but many species, particularly the deep sea sharks, that gives them that sort of the green eye shine, like in seven-gill sharks. It's also what you see with the deer in the headlight. When you see that glow, it's reflecting the light back.
Another one.
Similar tissue. Sorry?
Tupidum lucidum.
Tupidum lucidum. Very good, Carmen. You already have a Sharks for Kids, don't you?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay, well, for your daughter, as soon as she starts reading, you won our Sharks for Kids, a science book.
Woohoo.
Good.
Wait, are we shouting out the answers or are we writing them?
I'd say
we were writing them.
Yeah, but I can't see them. So if you got the answer right before.
Because I think we should be able to see everyone's answers just to rate the best one.
Yeah, because I was writing the answers and the link, but and
I
that's
can't see them. So what we're gonna have to do is we'll just have you shout them out if you know them.
I don't think it's working. It's not signing in. I'm still on the sign in page. Just put in your name, right?
Yeah, your name and there's two your name and your nickname.
But David, we're not using
Oh, there we go.
the
Wait.
answer box on the website. We're just shouting it out if we know the answer.
No, you
Yeah, I
should
think
be,
that's
you
what
should
we'll
be
do.
writing
We'll
them.
have you.
You want to just shout them out?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it'll
Because
move it along.
it was me who write it down on the board, the phobia. So that's why the gallophobia. I read it down.
Yeah, I don't know how that got up there.
No, because at the first one, after you enter the answers, I can hit a button that says share the answer at the end, but I don't want to share it until everybody's put in their answer. So now I wasn't going to share it. I thought David was just going to type in the correct answer.
Okay,
So everybody
that's what
can
David will
see.
do then. That's how we'll do it, you guys.
Okay.
And then we'll just we'll give out the prizes at the end or for jokes. So Tapetum lucidum, that is the tissue that is common among a couple of the families of sharks, and primarily deeper sea sharks that live in low light. So next question, please. So what 4 or even 5 are the fins are the most favored shark fins in the wildlife trade, and what are they used for? And there's a little diagram there if you don't know all of your shark fins. And we don't have claspers in there, Julie, which are a modified fin.
It is there. It says claspers.
Oh, you're
Does
right. It's beneath my computer.
Are the upper caudal lobe and the lower caudal lobe separate in this, or?
They are separate fins.
Okay.
Good question. So you guys just want to which fins do you think are used and what are they used for?
Can I shout the answer out?
Yeah.
I think first and second dorsal fins are the ones sought after for food.
Okay, there's actually
Okay.
there's actually 3 more that are the ones that are most used. They're actually almost all used. Sometimes they're used in dim sum, low quality fins, but the ones that bring in the big dollars are the dorsal fins.
Dorsal and caudal fin too, pectoral fins too.
Right, pectoral and upper caudal, and that's because these fins are reinforced or structuralized by an internal network called serotrichia or trichia, and those are high densities of cartilage, which give them the structural integrity, almost like a bone, but not calcified because it's cartilage, and it has a property that's desired by whom and for what? What are the fins used for and by whom?
Shark fin soup.
Right, shark fin soup.
I think there's also like medicines that are made of shark cartilage.
Shark cartilage is used for medicine. That's a good point. Usually it's the spine is used. The fins are used more for their texture in shark fin soup. So the soup is an ancient dish that dates back to the Sung Dynasty, but it's a modern dish of the middle class, which is very large and affluent in China and outside of China, and it's really led to kind of a gold rush for shark fins. And unfortunately, shark populations can't sustain this heavy pressure for this luxury item.
Yeah, it's a status symbol that they serve in weddings and banquets.
Right.
I think.
Okay. So this is for a prize. What did the pirate shark sing with his crew?
Shark.
Close.
Something
Anybody
with
else?
sugar.
Yo ho ho. Well, it has here yo ho ho and a bottle of chum, but Charles, you get one of our shirts. So next, please. We have a Shark Sanctuary shirt. So every fall, Shark Stewards leads natural history wildlife expeditions to 2 marine protected areas, or 2 types, located off the coast of San Francisco. And we do these for education, but also for community science and supporting marine protection in our own home waters. Can anybody name the state marine protected areas where we take people to? And I know several of you have come with us during Sharktober. So what would the state marine protected area be?
California Department. California?
California Department of Fish and Wildlife is the one who administers it. But the actual marine reserve, the name of the area that you cannot fish.
Oh, Southeast Farallon Island.
Right,
Marine
Southeast Farallon Marine Reserve, and there's also a conservation area. And those are administered by the state, so they go out to 3 miles in some cases off the mainland. There are 124 of these in this integrated network from the border of Oregon down to the border of Mexico. They are ecosystem-based managed, connected by currents, and being studied by science. Oops, it moved on. Oh, so I should have said the first one. So what was the first one called in federal waters? And of course, that's the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, which is administered by NOAA, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, who who actually runs the National Marine Sanctuary services. And there are 15 national marine sanctuaries, and now there are 3 more being proposed, 1 on the East Coast and 2 on the West. And also, this shows the map there at Southeast Farallon Island, which of course is a major aggregation area for white sharks each fall. There is a bonus question here: is what is the protected area of the land portion, which is an entirely different agency that administers it. So you have a real alphabet soup of protection, not only around it in federal waters, around it in state waters, but also on the island itself to protect nesting seabirds and pinnipeds that pup there, and other marine mammals that use this the land, other pinnipeds, I should say. So who knows what the protected area of the dirt part is? Well, I guess nobody guessed it in time. It's part of our National Wildlife Refuge System. So this is about as protected as you can get. No fishing around the island. You cannot drill oil in the National Marine Sanctuary. You cannot bottom trawl in the National Marine Sanctuary without permitting. And there is some bottom trawling outside the islands, but at a far enough distance. You cannot discharge oil into the sanctuary if you're a vessel. So they are very healthy and host the largest seabird colony in North America outside of Alaska. They're also, of course, host to 5 species of pinnipeds, or seals and sea lions. They were home once to the southern sea otter, which someday may return. And then just over 250,000 nesting seabirds use these rocks that are undisturbed by many of the terrestrial animals like cats or rabbits or other animals that are domestic that would disturb nesting seabirds. They are extraordinary, one of the most beautiful wild places. You can see them off San Francisco on a clear day, and we're about the only ones who take public trips out there because it can be quite rugged and rough to get out there. But we've got a great boat, we've got a great captain, got a great crew, and we lead about 5 trips every fall. So let's go to the next one. I think this might be the last open-ended question. So what international program is focusing on protecting the ocean through the creation of marine protected areas or other conservation measures within the next decade? So this is international. So every nation needs to commit to this, but it's a global goal that has been committed by groups of nations, by individual nations, by our president, and also by our governor, actually. And I mentioned this, and in this case, it's protecting the ocean by. It's actually within the next decade, not even. It's 7 years away. That's a hint. What percentage?
30 by 30.
There you go. Who said that?
Vivian.
Vivian. I don't know if you count. You should have shouted that out right away.
I did.
You did? Okay. Well, good job. This is a big part of what your film's
It's
about.
it's only my entire research.
Okay, so it's committing to protecting 30% of our oceans by 2030. And we have a couple petitions you can sign to support our California and Hawaii proposed national marine sanctuaries, or learn more about our California State Marine Protected Area Network, where you can also volunteer doing subtidal observations, sometimes just doing there's a Sea Star Sea Star snapshot that's coming up in this month or January with the California Academy of Sciences, looking at sea stars. So that's intertidal more, but subtidal if you want to dive. Looking at sea stars along our coast, kind of as a follow-up to that big wasting disease. So that's a method of community science that will also occur in our marine protected areas, but also outside of it. So there are a lot of community science opportunities. Okay, another open-ended question. So what two major areas in the Pacific is the United States focusing to meet these UN 30 by 30 goals? And you have to say the proper name. What two national marine sanctuaries did I just mention in my last answer?
Farallone's Marine Sanctuary.
No, that's already protected.
Oh.
The Papahanaumoku Chumash.
Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, somebody said the Papahanaumokuakea. Who was
And
that?
the Chumash.
And who said that?
Vivian again.
Who said the Papahanau?
Vivian.
Vivian. Okay,
I submitted Chumash.
I heard somebody else say Chumash. Who was that? Sammy?
Darina submitted Chumash. I'm writing them. I'm not.
Okay, Rena. Okay, good job. So the Papahanaumokuakea is this area, what used to be called the Northwest Hawaiian Islands or the Kapuna Islands by the Native Hawaiians. It's actually where the old hotspot was, because this is on the Pacific Plate. The hotspot is now south west of Hawaii, down here where there's a new island forming. It's still subsurface, but Hawaii is actually still active. Of course, Kilauea and Mauna Loa, and that's what volcanic action, basalt forms these islands. And as that Pacific Plate moves, the islands move away from the hotspot and eventually they erode. So there are the main Hawaiian islands, which are young and high, and there are the old islands, which are sacred to Native Hawaiians. There are burial sites and prayer areas, and the Native Hawaiians still go up and consider these areas important, as do we ecologically, because they have the healthiest coral reefs in the Central Pacific and also host to many endangered species. And the next slide will probably show the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary, which is the area that is along the coastline between San Luis Obispo and along down to the Gaviota coastline off Santa Barbara. This is an important area for our Native Americans and the Chumash tribes, as well as people who enjoy some of these sand dunes to the south, but also coastal areas. And this will really protect this area, protect their native caves and artifacts, but also protect the coastline from oil drilling. So next slide, please. And here it is, time to climb for our grand prize winner. While you guys are choosing, I think you need to click on this. Or do you have to open Navigator? No. You have to choose your character. And whoever puts the answer on these questions will be advanced up the hill, and whoever answers the quickest through the text and moves forward. So choose your character, and while you're waiting, I'm going to give to the next person one of these cool mugs, and they keep your beverage cold or hot. It has our cool Shark Stewards logo on it, and these are available on our website as well. So this was one of Vivian's jokes, so you can't answer it, Vivian. So why do sharks live in salt water?
Because if they lived in pepper water, they'd sneeze.
Yes, who is that?
Me, Highland.
Highland, good job. You heard that one. All right. Well, you've got a shark mug, Highland. So thank you. Okay, so we chose our characters, and Jules, so like we just joined the game, right? And
Yeah,
then
well,
you...
David, you have to choose a character.
I did.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
me.
All right.
Oh,
Lots of penguins.
I thought I put Species Shark.
Can you set up?
This looks
Can you send me the
ridiculous.
link?
The link is up in the it's in the chat.
Here, I'll send it again.
Okay, thank you.
It's pretty wild that there's no shark avatar, by the way.
I know.
I know.
I agree. We should write them. See, good thing Gautam's not on here because he's like the past 2 years in a row he's won this. There looks like a couple twins in there too.
Lots of penguins.
All right.
Were you able to join? Should I start it yet, Carmen?
I think I was Charles. Charles, are you in there? Oh,
No,
Carmen.
I'm in here.
Oh, there's
I'm
Carmen.
penguin.
Okay, Carmen's in there. Okay, here I go. I'm starting it.
Which of the following sharks do not have the ability to thermoregulate? And we know that white sharks do, right? The laminate sharks through countercurrent exchange, or the rete variable, which is a wonderful a network of capillaries that exchange the venous blood to the arterial blood and maintain a warmer core temperature. Okay. Yeah, I'm at the top. I'm usually last. According to 2021 study in the journal Nature, what is the percentage of abundance of oceanic sharks and rays that have declined? Not gone extinct as species, but has declined as a total. It's even higher among pelagic or oceanic sharks like oceanic whitetips. It's estimated 77% of the total number of sharks and rays since we began industrial fishing in around 50 years ago.
David, you might need to move your webcam up a little bit. We're not seeing you very well.
Seeing me? But you
There
can
you
see
go.
it.
Better.
Okay. So the answer is 71%.
Also, if David wins this game, is that considered cheating?
What is the oldest living species of shark?
Hey, David, you can't answer so fast because then you get higher than everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
So you should wait till the end to
Who's
answer.
the second penguin?
David, we can see your answers.
I'm the second penguin.
Okay.
So you need to stop sharing your screen, otherwise we can plagiarize.
Stop that. But
yeah, or David should
I'll go
answer
last.
only at the very end.
I'm so embarrassed most of these times, you guys, I'm always the last one in the whole thing. So I'll just sort of back off here. So what feature of coloration is commonly found in pelagic sharks? And this is also another example of convergent evolution in other large fish and some whales even. And it has to do with predator avoidance or also camouflaging for species that are predators themselves so that prey can't either see them from above or below. I'm out of time, so see. Counter shading is the answer. Oh no, I must have fallen down. Highland's in the lead. Good job, Highland. What specialized structure aids in a shark's digestion? And this is something that is unique to the elasmobranchs, and it's because they don't have small intestines like we do, but they need that larger amount of surface area so that they can absorb nutrients. Another really interesting thing about sharks' digestion is many sharks can evert their gut. So a lot of things that aren't digestible, like skulls, No, or license plates in the case of tiger sharks or other items that they can actually regurgitate that out. You guys are catching up. So that's the spiral valve, and that is like just proximate to their anus. So a female shark just gave birth in the shed aquarium, which was actually last year now. But there's also, this is common in aquariums and first discovered, and we find these sharks have exact same genotypes as the other shark. And so how do they do it? If there's a female and there's no male in there, they give immaculate birth, like Virgin Mary this time of year. So they're not giving birth to Jesus, but they're giving birth during a method of reproduction. And that's, of course, called...
It was a zebra shark, right?
It's parthenogenesis. Viviparity means giving live birth. Hyland, you won, though. Good job. So that's called parthenogenesis. Wow, Nathan.
Go.
And Max. Good job, guys. Okay, so Hyland, you get the trip. We'll send you the information. I better write this down.
Thank you.
And you get a t-shirt that you can wear on the trip. I think I gave you a t-shirt, didn't I? Okay, so...
Oh yeah, I do have a shirt. I have a shirt.
And Max and Nathan, send me your Nathan, we definitely have to get you a shirt. And Max, send me your address, if you will. And thank you guys for tuning in. Happy holidays. I really appreciate you participating. And of course, we really appreciate you, all of your endeavors supporting Shark Stewards and marine protection. So I'm going to stop share here. And we still have a lot of people who've hung on an hour and a half. So thank you. We're right almost at the end. Thank you, Julie, for doing our Nearpod, and Vivian for the film and all of her jokes. She has a lot more, and obviously because she knows all the answers. But